If you're struggling with getting hand depth in your backswing and we're getting a little bit steep on the way back, this video is for you, because today we're going to talk about some elements of your body that might be causing this. We're going to see how you can start working on getting more hand depth, and we're also going to talk about some drills and exercises you can do to improve this move in your golf swing. Welcome back to the Macro Golf YouTube channel. I'm Joe, founder of Macro Golf, and today we're talking about hand depth. And I did this video recently with Jack. I'll put it up here, and he was talking about a key element of speed and consistency in the golf swing is the depth that the hands get. So caring less about the rotation and more about the depth of the hands working the club back in this direction, okay? It allows for more time to create speed, allows for a little bit more consistency, and really helps us deliver a kind of optimal delivery with both irons and with driver. So I've been doing some work with clients in the studio here recently on this and starting to think a little bit more about this concept of getting hand depth. And something we talk about is there are actually many ways for us to get this club working further back in this direction. We're getting the hands to work further back in this direction. And the way that you do this, personally you, or the reason why you don't do this, can really be affected on your body and the way that your body moves. So I kind of break this down to three main areas that I think really help us get this better hand depth. So one of those is the hips. The second one of those is the torso. And the third one is actually the lead and trail arms and actually getting the hand and arm structure to change. So let me show you what I mean. So if I simply lift this club up in the air and I don't have any rotation from hip and from torso, the club is going to work in an upward motion. I'm simply just lifting the arms and I'm going to get this upward motion. Shaft is going to be very steep and I'm going to lift the club up in this direction. But if I lift the club up in this direction and then turn hips and turn torso, you'll see that I can lift, I can then turn the hips, turn the torso, and suddenly now I'm in a slightly better position with the hands deeper and the club starting to shallow out. So what we know with this is that hand depth is a direct relationship between the amount of rotation we get in the hip and the amount of rotation we get in the torso. So if you are restricted in hip mobility and restricted in torso mobility, the chances of you getting good hand depth are going to rely only on your ability to get the arms into that position. Now, if I show you without any hip turn and without any torso turn, if I try and get these arms to work across the body, I run out of room quite quickly. I've got a blockage here that stops my hands being able to travel far enough back in this direction, where hip turn, torso turn, suddenly I can get some depth. So first thing we need to do is find out for you, which of these areas do you have enough movement to create this depth? And if you don't have movement in one of these segments, we're going to work out how you're going to find a way around that. Okay, so to start, we're going to talk about hip rotation, and we're actually going to do a little test to see how much rotation we have in this trail hip. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my right side, or wherever your trail side, obviously if you're left-handed golfer, do the left side. I'm going to put the right foot forward. I'm going to post myself up on this front leg, so I've got all of my weight up and forward on this right side. Left foot is there just as a little bit of support. I'm going to put the hands on the hips, keeping this foot flat on the ground. I'm not going to let this fall one way or the other. I'm then going to rotate my hips as far round to the right as I can. Now, elite level is going to be somewhere around 60 to 65 degrees of rotation in this hip here. If you're struggling to turn enough in this direction, you feel like the foot wants to roll or maybe the knee wants to buckle, chances are you don't have enough rotation in this hip. What I'm going to do below this video is I'm going to put a link to a video that I've done recently on a full TPI mobility assessment. So if you are starting to fail some of these tests, jump over to that video, get a little bit more of an insight into how your body's moving. But for now, just for a quick test, foot forward, do we have at least 6 degrees rotation working this hip right in this direction? Okay. If you do, great. We can start to work on this to create more hand depth. If we don't, we're going to have to start to rely a little bit more on this torso to start to get enough turn. So the second test we're going to do is actually measuring from the torso. So we're going to take something to sit down on. Ideally, I like the legs to be able to hang and I like the legs to be locked against this. So this box is perfect, so I can pull my knees back, keep my calves against the box. That's going to stop my legs from sliding so that I know I'm only testing from the upper half. I can also put something between my legs if I want, if I feel like I want to cheat. But from this position, I'm going to sit myself nice and upright. Hands can either go across the shoulders or up and open. And all I'm going to do from here is see how far I can rotate this chest round to the right. So I'm interested here in, can I get at least 45 degrees of rotation through this torso? And if I can't, and I feel like I'm a little bit blocked, when I was suffering a little bit from our ability to rotate the thoracic spine, which again is going to affect hand depth. So again, if you fail this test, jump down below, find that TPI mobility test, see if we can test this a little bit further. So the final test we're going to do is to see how much movement we actually have in this lead arm, an ability to work across and up over the body. So there's a big muscle here that runs down the back of the shoulder, down to the middle part of our back called our lats. And we're just going to test how much motion we have in there. So we're going to come into a position, golf posture. And again, what you can do for this is you can film yourself doing this test to make it a little bit easier for you to be a kind of a fair test. We're going to come into golf posture. We're going to put both hands out, fists just a little bit away from each other. And then all we're going to do is lift the arms up and see if we can lift the arms up and in line with the ears. I want to be able to do this without coming out of posture. Arms should be able to get in line with the ears. And I want to make sure I can keep the arms straight as I do that. I don't want to bow the arms out into this position, okay? Again, if you're struggling with that in terms of mobility, go back, check that TPI video below this, and see if we can identify that mobility a little bit further. Okay, so now we've had a little look at what the body can do, we can start to think a little bit more about how this gets put together. So what we can start to understand is if we don't have a lot of hip rotation, we're going to get stuck at this point, and therefore we need to work much harder through the torso to be able to create this depth. What you'll see though is if hip can't turn very well, and the torso also can't turn very well, I'm going to have to use a lot of the upper half to start to get these arms working back behind and getting deep into this right heel. Now, if we failed all three of those tests, and we were limited in hip mobility, limited in torso mobility, and we were restricted in the upper half getting this arm across, chances are you're going to find it very hard to get into this nice wound up, deep hand position. And you're probably going to find that you're going to get a little bit lack of rotation, club's going to start to lift, and you might start to find that you get a little bit more into this type of position, arm lifting away, or you might find that you just stay very short and snatch you from here. So we can start to understand now how deep hand position is key. We've heard it, we know this can be really good for consistency, really good for speed. But just because it is good for consistency and good for speed, it doesn't mean that it's going to be the best way for you personally to play your best golf. If you don't have enough mobility in the hip, don't have enough mobility in the torso, don't have enough mobility through the arm structure, it's going to be very, very hard for you to get into that position, and it's not going to be a consistent move for you. So if you are looking for more hand structure, better hand depth, better hand positioning, first of all, check, can your body do it? If it can't, there's tons of things you can do. This is what the Macro Golf app looks like. We've got tons and tons and tons of exercises you can go away and do to start working on your ability to get into this position. But if you can't do it right now, you're going to have to find another way for you to create more structure and more speed that is not necessarily relying on hand depth. If you do pass these tests and you are able to do these movements and you currently don't have enough hand depths, you just need to work more in diving into this rotation. You need to think more about getting this hip to work, using this mobility that you have, get more on the torso to work, using this mobility you have through here. And naturally what you'll find is this club will start to drift into a deeper position, hands into a deeper position, and you'll actually feel more wound and ready to start unloading this stored power. So hopefully you found that useful. Hopefully you've taken something away from this. Again, with all of the belief systems we have here at Macro Golf, we believe on you building a personalized blueprint. With all these videos that we deliver, we're really going to be trying emphasize the fact that this is not going to necessarily be the perfect move for you. We need to discover through these tests, through these assessments, is this the right way for you to move forward? And hopefully it's given you a bit of a better understanding of that. Hopefully you found this video useful. It means a lot for me if you can click the like button. Obviously subscribe to the channel, really, really helps me out as well. Until then, guys, I'll see you on the next video.